Hey you guys, this is Melissa with momsimplelife.com, and I just wanted to give you guys an update of how the seed startings are looking. So right here you can see that there is quite a bit of growth, but we haven't had any sprouted on either the sawdust or sand or the actual organic dirt. But I'm just going to turn this so you guys can kind of see down the side of it. Okay, so this one is the 75% sawdust, 25% sand, and that was actually last year's kind of method, and they've actually recently updated it. They did four part sawdust, 2-part sand, and then 1 part perlite. So I will be doing an updated video trying to compare just the organic soil against, you know, the prescribed method in the book. Even though this is actually still Mittleider method on this side, you could use any type of, you know, potting soil for their method too. I just wanted to sit there and see if they would come up a lot easier or faster using one method over the other. And you can see using last year's, and that's probably why they updated the book this year, that just organic potting soil seems to have actually germinated a whole lot faster than the sawdust and sand. So like I have a couple sprouts here of the big cabbage, and I do not have any Swiss chard yet. I don't know if I can turn this. I have a few things of back here of lettuce, and then a whole lot more lettuce on the organic soil here. So both of these rows are the butter crunch lettuce. This row is the Swiss chard, and this one is the cabbage. And you can see they are actually doing really well on this side. Okay, so last year I basically just used the organic potting soil, and they did fine. So you don't really have to do the sawdust and sand if you don't want to, but of course it's just an alternative. So I did forget to put the pre-plant fertilizer in last week when I first started the seeds. So I basically usually add my weekly feed to the bottom tray anyways. So I usually just get a glass, or I'll sprinkle the weekly feed in the bottom tray and then add warm water. So this is really warm water, and then I just stirred in the weekly feed, and then I usually just pop this up and then pour it in and then kind of like let it soak. So you don't want to leave the water standing in there for a long time because it will start rotting the roots. I also discovered last year I had an issue with mold growing on top of my seedling flats because I watered on top instead of down below. So then after learning that if you water from underneath, you have less likely of mold to appear, which will choke out your seedlings. So it seems like it's doing pretty good. I don't have any signs, of course, of mold. So in about 30 minutes I'll be dumping out the extra water. But I just wanted to show you just the difference of a week with the sawdust and sand and the organic potting soil. So far it seems like the potting soil is doing a lot better, but of course this is last year's method, and I will be updating my next seedling start, you know, video with the actual perlite and the 4 parts sawdust and the 2-part sand, like LDS Prepper has suggested I would do. Thank you so much for supporting me in this. This is a pretty fun venture. And then I'll show you what I have going upstairs in my kitchen. The temperature inside of my shower is about 67 degrees. So it seems like it stays pretty warm down in here, definitely with the like the emergency blankets on the walls and stuff. So it says 67 now, but I've actually had the door open for a bit, so it is kind of cool in this room. So I will update you on if it actually gets a lot warmer if I close the door, because I don't know, for some reason I opened the door to prep this video and then I forgot to close it to keep the temperature and track it. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys some of the sweet potatoes I ended up trying to grow some slips from last year. So these are the sweet potatoes that I actually dug up out of my garden from last year, but they are not the biggest ones. Somehow we accidentally ate it, I guess. So I went back in my sweet potato bin, and I know LDS Prepper left a comment about saving the biggest ones, but the biggest ones ended up in our stomach and not replanting for this year. So I'm hoping that these little things will work. And so far I could see, I'll try to zoom in here, and you can see on top he has already started the sprouts. And I started these on the 15th, and today is the 25th. So I think that's pretty good. 10 days and we're now getting sprouts. Or slips starting up top. And the roots on this one is actually not that much at all. But last year, this whole vase, I used these pickle vases that you could get from like the grocery store. You gotta eat the pickles first, of course, but has a lot of room for a lot of the roots, and then they get really big really fast. This one only has a lot of roots, but it only has one little tiny slip starting. So who knows if that's even a slip. Yeah, that looks like a slip. This one has a bunch of, I guess you would call, you know, little whiskers on it, and it has no slips so far. Yep, I don't see any slips on the top yet. But they will take some time, and I'm hoping that all of these will start producing slips. Last year I started 3 organic sweet potatoes from the store, and somehow only one actually took. And last year I put 2 of the sweet potatoes inside underneath lights, and I don't know what it was with the artificial light. It did not like it, and it did not produce any roots. It just rotted out. And the one potato I did start in the window sill. This is basically our kitchen window, and it's actually facing north. It's not facing south. So it's not like it gets a lot of light anyways, but it actually took off and produced all the slips we needed from that one potato for most of our bed. So I'm hoping by starting all 3 up here this year that they're going to produce quite a bit. And so far they're actually doing a whole lot better than last year inside of my shower where I started it last year. It just somehow it didn't want to go and start, you know, producing slips. So it's doing pretty good so far. And so that's after 10 days of starting these sweet potatoes, and they are organic also. And then there's our green onions and our windowsill that we like to re-sprout. This is actually this is after 10 days also, and then this is, I think, 3 days or 2 days. Can't remember when that one is. I gotta look at the timestamps on my pictures. These are actually when I went to go cure my sweet potatoes. I ended up having it too moist and too warm where it started growing slips on a lot of the sweet potatoes. So last year I posted a picture on the Mittleider gardening Facebook page, and everyone said just take off the slips and put them in water. They will root, and then when it comes time to plant, I could just plant them outside. So far it looks actually really good. I actually haven't even put any fertilizer in the jar, which I probably should start doing that, because you could see a little bit of discoloring on the end, which is kind of nutrition deficiency, if I could say that right. So by having the light color, that kind of tells me that it needs a little bit something, you know. It's getting hungry. Okay, so I just wanted to show you, this is something I just like came up with. It was just like what's growing and indoor, outdoor, like what I showed you guys last week. Some of the stuff, after rereading some of the Mittleider detailing page, I can't start these until a month later because this would be too soon. This was basically off of like a website that said what we could grow in our region, but I'm going to trust the Mittleider method detailing page since they seem to be a lot more accurate. So I have here when I started the seeds, and then over here is when the cabbage started to sprout in organic soil. The cabbage started to sprout in the sawdust and sand, the lettuce sprouting in the organic soil, and then 2 days later is when I started seeing the lettuce sprouting in the sawdust and sand. And over here I have the organic soil, the Swiss chard was sprouting in the organic soil, but it has not started sprouting in the sawdust and sand yet. So that's like 3 days. So maybe tomorrow we'll start seeing something. So based on this, what I've seen so far, the 75% sawdust, 25% sand is great for the outdoor, but starting seeds indoor is not doing so good. But I'm gonna then basically take the tips that LDS Prepper has told me about the 4 parts sawdust and 2 parts sand and 1 part perlite, and also using the pre-plant fertilizer, and see how that compares to just your normal organic soil, potting soil that you would find. So stay tuned, and don't forget to get your latest Mittleider course book. So you can see it's quite a bit used on this one, but this is actually last year's. I bought this last year, and I need to get this year's edition since I have the older copy. And if you have any questions or comments, just leave it in the comment section down below. And thank you guys so much for subscribing, and I'll see you next time. See you next week. Bye.